Welcome to Paycheck for Life, a Sarah's new and mid-career employee webinar. In this webinar, we are assuming that you're either new or you're somewhere in the middle of your career, which is why we called it the new slash mid-career employee webinar. Kind of the summary of that is that you are not yet near retirement, which is a good thing in the context of retirement planning because it means you still have plenty of time to plan for retirement. So in this seminar, I'm going to tell you all the things that you might want to know in those intervening years between now and when you finally retire years from now regarding that retirement planning. And since you're curious enough about retirement planning to watch this webinar, you probably have some questions. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? Do I need to do anything? And if I need to do something, what do I need to do? Well, I can already predict probably 95% of the questions that you're going to ask because I've been doing this for a while. So what I've done is I've created the presentation based on what I think you want to know. I've arranged the answers to what I think you're going to ask in the form of this checklist. And so this is what we're going to go through during the presentation. I will help you understand some retirement basics about Acera. As part of that discussion, we'll talk about a little bit about pension math. There's very little math, and I'll walk you through it. So don't get stressed out if you don't enjoy math. We'll talk about the retirement formula that Sarah uses to calculate your pension, and we'll talk about purchasing service credit as part of that discussion. I will help you get a precision pension estimate from our website. I will help you understand retirement eligibility and when you're first eligible to retire if you choose. We'll talk a little bit about additional benefits like healthcare and death benefits. I'll help you designate your beneficiary for those death benefits from Acera. We'll talk about some career planning options. And what I mean by that is at some point in the future, you're going to stop working here. What are your options regarding your Acera account and your Acera benefits? And then I will help you make a retirement planning picture, which means that we'll take a little peek into the future and look at your potential retirement income when you retire. And then we'll go back into the past to in fact from there to the present to figure out what you need to do, what some moves that you might want to make in order to make the best retirement planning picture that you can imagine possible. And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account. Okay, let's jump right in. Somebody's asking, can we get copies of the slides? Yes, if you go to sarah.org/seminars, there's a PDF. I'll type that in for you. There's a PDF of these slides in there. I did make one small change to one of the slides right before the presentation started because I realized there was something I wanted to update you all on. I'll make a note of that slide when I get to it, and then I'll upload the fresh presentation to that link, the same link at the after we're finished. Okay, let me help you understand some retirement basics. First off, who is Acera? What is this acronym? This acronym stands for the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association, and the reason I made the question who is Acera is because Acera is made up of a lot of people. There are about 93, I think, of us that work at Acera. We are Alameda County employees, so we're government employees like you, and our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. So that is all of you. You are members of Acera, so you are part of the who that is Acera. And you're a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. So currently, you work full time, or at some point in the past, you worked full time in a retirement eligible position. And that automatically made you an Acera member if that position was working for one of the 6 participating employers in Acera. These are the 6 public agencies in Alameda County that use Acera to provide retirement benefits to their employees. So if you work for one of these employers in that retirement eligible position, you're automatically an Acera member, and in fact, your membership is mandatory if you're in that retirement eligible position. And as an Acera member, you contribute to Acera's fund with every paycheck. That's called your employee contribution. And you can verify that if you look at your pay stub. You'll see the before tax deductions column. You'll see a line that says something like retirement. It may say your tier in there. We'll talk a little bit about what the tiers mean in a few minutes. And you'll see some money coming out of your paycheck on a before tax basis, and that goes into a Sarah's fund with each and every paycheck that you receive. Additionally, every time that happens, your employer is contributing to a Sarah's fund on your behalf. So that is considered one of your benefits is the fact that your employer is also funding your future retirement benefits. But you're both contributing. You as an employee are contributing to a Sarah's fund and your employer is contributing on your behalf. And we don't want that money to just sit around and collect dust. So we invest it in a diverse array of investments all around the world with the goal of earning interest on those investments. And we achieve our goal steadily. If you look at our investment history over time, on an annualized basis, we make over 7% per year if you go back through our history. So our it's these three sources of income: the employee contributions, the employer contributions, and a Sarah and the investment earnings that give us this big pool of money that we call a Sarah's fund. So what are we doing this for? Why are we collecting this money? Why are we spending this time? Why is our investment department, who are all investment professionals, spending this time investing your money? Well, you, as you work through your career as an Acera member, you earn more and more credit toward retirement the longer you work in your career for your public employer in that retirement eligible position. At some point in the future, the whole goal of this is that you are going to retire. And at that point, you stop earning credit toward retirement and you start collecting the retirement that you've been earning throughout your entire career in the form of a monthly retirement allowance. You'll receive that monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life. It happens each and every month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your Acera retirement. It is a beautiful thing. In fact, it's a very special thing these days because private employers don't do this much anymore. It's really government agencies. And what it is guaranteed income for life that you can plan on. Okay. So not only will you get this check every month for the rest of your life for this fixed dollar amount plus cost of living increases, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But it's defined by a formula that you can predict. So you can get very accurate precision estimates ahead of time to do very accurate, precise retirement planning ahead of time, which I will walk you through during the course of this presentation. The other reason that pensions are special, especially Acera, is that all the money that you contribute to Acera's fund throughout your entire career, we will give you back all that money plus all the interest that we have posted to your account within your first 3 to 5 retired years. And everything after that is like this amazing bonus that you get because you participate in a defined benefit pension plan like Acera. Now, it's not so amazing because that's the way the whole system is set up. You defer some of your wages, that's your employee contribution. Your employer pays some contributions, and through the investments, we're actually, the investment earnings pay for 3/4 of your lifetime pension. And that's just the way it works. So it's a very special thing. Now, somebody's asking how old is Acera? Acera goes back to 1948. I'm clicking on our About page real fast. Yep, we became operational January 1st, 1948, and we were established by the Alameda County Board of Supervisors. So we've been doing this for a long time. Okay, let me show you this pension milestone chart, and this will provide, oh, you're welcome. This will provide some context for some of the more detailed discussions that we're going to have about how Acera works. So these are some milestones that you will likely see along the road, along the timeline regarding your Acera membership. The first milestone is your date of hire. This is your first day of work in your retirement eligible position. Okay, then for 4 of our 6 employers, 2 weeks goes by. There's a 2-week lag. The first day of your second pay period, this is the day that you enter Acera, known as your date of entry. And this is when you start earning that credit toward retirement. Now, for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District and the Housing Authority, there is no 2-week lag. The date of hire into the full-time retirement eligible position is the same as the date of entry. Okay, now you're an Acera member. Now you're earning credit toward retirement. Okay, You're earning credit toward retirement in three different categories, and I'll talk about what those three categories are in a few minutes when I show you the retirement formula that contains the three categories. One of them is called service credit, and it just basically means time worked, time earned in a SERA. So you work for 5 full-time years, or the equivalent of 5 full-time years if you happen to go down to part-time after you initially became an ASERA member. And once you have earned 5 years of service credit with ASERA, you're considered vested in the retirement system. And vesting, while it's kind of a loose concept, it just kind of means guaranteed. And so when you reach the vesting point, you begin to unlock the ability to receive some of the guaranteed benefits, the vested benefits that you get as an ASERA member. Okay, then some other indeterminate amount of time passes, and there you reach retirement eligibility, and it's based on some combination of your years of service and your age um, that gets you to retirement eligibility. There's a few different combinations. I'll show you what they are in the second half of the presentation, but this would be the first day that you could retire from a SERA. And I think you'll find when we get to that slide that the requirements are not as stringent as you might think. So you can retire on this day, or like many people do, probably the vast majority of our members, continue working past their first retirement eligibility date to earn more and more credit toward retirement to increase their retirement allowance payment that they'll get every month for the rest of their life. Okay, next milestone is the date that you leave your job, also known as your termination date or your last day on payroll. This is the day when you stop earning credit toward retirement. Um, but for many people, um, this is the many people will go straight into retirement from this. So then their first day of retirement will be the next day after this, but not always. Some people will leave, stop working here, and defer their retirement to a later date, and there would be a gap between these two milestones. Okay, so I'll talk all about that when I talk about the career planning options. And somebody asked, what happens if you don't work for the 5 years? I will address that a little bit later. I'll talk about the death benefits definitely later. I'll talk about the vesting and the service credit purchase in just a minute. And we're just about to talk about the vested benefits in a second. Okay. Okay, so you've stopped working here. You stopped earning credit toward retirement, and now you've retired. This is a date that you choose. This is your first day that you start collecting that lifetime retirement. And you will collect it every month for the rest of your life up until your death. This is when your retirement payments stop. But there is one more milestone on the chart, as you can see, and that's because at the time of retirement, you have the opportunity to name a beneficiary for a continuance, which is a continuing monthly payment after your death, in most cases for the rest of your beneficiary's life. So when your beneficiary dies, that would conclude us paying out to you and your beneficiaries all of the benefits that you've earned and that we owe you. And regarding vesting and the guaranteed benefits, just a couple more points on this. The vesting does include the 5 years of service credit that gets you over the vesting requirement, includes reciprocal service credit. I will talk at length about reciprocity in the second half of the presentation, but real quick, it just means you've linked multiple retirement systems in California together to achieve synergy. One of the synergistic effects is all the service credit combined among all the linked systems gets you over the vesting requirement. And the guarantee, I said vesting means guaranteed. The guarantee comes from state law that governs everything that we do. And the guaranteed benefits are the monthly retirement benefit for life, an annual cost of living increase that you will receive, which is a percentage increase in retirement that you get every year in retirement to your monthly retirement benefit, and a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. That's considered a vested benefit. There are additional death benefits depending on which one of the retirement options you select at the time of retirement. We don't need to take a deep dive into that right now, but there are other death benefits out there. Okay, now one thing I want to point out here, some terminology. You're noticing I'm saying monthly retirement benefit here, but earlier I said retirement allowance. Well, that's because there's a bunch of synonyms for this idea. So I might say retirement benefit, retirement allowance, pension, pension benefit, pension allowance. These are all synonyms for the same idea that you will be paid an amount to your checking account every month for the rest of your life from a SERA that you've earned. So that's what all of those synonymous terms mean. Let's see. I will be covering service credit purchases. Somebody's asking about taxes. You will owe income taxes on your retirement payments when the time comes. And we will withhold taxes from your retirement check. Okay, and I will talk about beneficiaries a lot in the second half of the presentation. Okay, so let me tell you about your tier. You're all in one of these tiers. These are Acera's tiers. Okay. There's four tiers, but there's kind of sub tiers within the four tiers. And the way that the tiers work is if you enter Acera before the cutoff date for the tier, that puts you in the earlier tier. Now, to figure out which timeline to look at, first of all, if you're a safety member, you're going to look at this bottom timeline. Safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers, okay? Everyone else who's not a sheriff's deputy or a probation officer, who's not a safety member, everyone else is a general member. So you're looking at the top timeline, unless you're a general member who works for the housing authority or a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, and then you look at the timeline for your employer. Okay. So the way this works is if you entered a Sarah before the cutoff date, it puts you in the earlier tier. So if you entered a Sarah as a general member before July 1st, 1983, that would have put you in tier one. If you entered a Sarah July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would have put you in tier two. If you entered a Sarah January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that puts you in tier four. And that's the case with all of the timelines. Now you'll notice the Housing Authority has a different tier one cutoff. LARPD does not have a tier two. They have a tier three that they negotiated for their employees. They have a different tier one cutoff. Safety members have three different tier twos. And if you entered a Sarah October 17th, 2010 to December 31st, 2012, you had a choice between these two, Tier 2C and Tier 2D, that you had to make within the first 45 days of your safety membership. And if you didn't, you were defaulted into one of them. I can't remember which one. For everyone, if you're not sure when your Sarah date of entry is, or you're not sure what your tier is, because you don't remember when you entered a Sarah, or you just want to have it verified. It's very simple. All you need to do is log into your account on our website. I'll show you our website. Here is acera.org. Okay. Every page at the top of every page has this login sign up button, and you got to click the button, and then you can log in to your account if you've already enrolled in the portal called Member Direct. If you have not yet enrolled, once you get enrolled and you put in your username and password, you'll find all of your pension data waiting for you in there, including your tier and your date of entry. Now, the enrollment process, you just click this enroll button here. And then what you're going to have to do is click this button, request an enrollment PIN. You fill out your info, hit request PIN, and this will generate a letter over at our office. And we'll get that into the US mail for you within 2 or 3 days. And you should receive it fairly quickly. And then you can come back to the login page, come over here again, and then you can actually enroll using your PIN. Okay. It will come with the letter will come with instructions that is sent with your PIN. Um, so it does take a few days to get this going, to get in there. My suggestion is just to go ahead and do it if you haven't already done it. And the reason that we do the U.S. Mail letter is just to keep this extra secure because there's a lot of financial data in here that we don't want to get into the wrong hands. Okay. But once you log in there, you can verify your tier, your date of entry, and many other things about your pension account, including how much service credit you've earned, how much you've paid into the system, etc. Okay, so at this point, what I want to do is show you this slide. This is kind of a preview of the whole. This kind of gives you a preview of the arc of the entire discussion that we're going to have, because my goal here is for you to leave with at least the beginnings of an idea of how to get pointed in the direction of having adequate retirement income by the time you are ready to retire. Okay. And so I'm gonna show you this slide now, and then I'll return to this slide in a little bit. And I want to show it to you now to show you that what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me talk about this equation that you're seeing. This represents your retirement income when you go to retire in the future. Okay, so if you take a little peek into the future and you see 30, 40 years in the future, 20, 25, whatever it is for you, you will stop working in your job and you're going to need income to pay for your life. And that income will come from various sources, including your SR pension. And this is what we like to call your paycheck for life, because you're going to get it every month for the rest of your life. If you have other pensions from other public retirement systems that you have earned credit in, you could kind of lump that into this category of pensions that will give you a paycheck for life. Also, Social Security. This is sort of the paycheck for life from the federal government. If you earn enough credit in that system, you will receive Social Security when the time comes. And then anything beyond your pensions or Social Security is going to be your savings and investments, your personal savings and investments. Okay. Financial planners will tell you that in order to maintain your standard of living in retirement, you're going to need to have, through these sources, you're going to need to be bringing in 80% at least of what you were bringing in as a working employee. So basically, you're going to need to replace 80% of your working salary with retirement income. So we call that salary replacement. Okay. Now, some of you may be getting stressed out. I know that that idea without any details stresses me out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how a Sarah's pension works and show you what you can expect from a Sarah's pension, help you get precision estimates, show you how to optimize a Sarah's pension. And then we'll revisit this slide and I'll talk about getting Social Security estimates and then figuring out based on those, using some technology to figure out if there's a gap, if you need to start saving now, how much of a gap there might be, and then where to save that additional money to get you pointed in the trajectory of at least 80% income replacement. Okay. So let me tell you about the Acera pension first, and then we will return to this topic at the end of the presentation to bring the whole thing together. Okay, somebody's asking, this is an important question. There's a couple of people talking about going ahead and creating an account. Now, if you're brand new, because this is also a new employee webinar, if you're brand new and you haven't been here for about 7 weeks, it takes about 7 weeks for you to get processed into our database and for us to send you a welcome letter. So if you try to enroll at this point, probably it won't work. So you should just go ahead and wait to receive that welcome letter in the mail from Acera after about 7 weeks. And that will have instructions on there. And I believe they send your PIN with that, if I'm not mistaken. But it will have instructions in there about how to create your Member Direct account. So yeah, if you're brand new, you don't have to do that, and in fact, you can't do it yet. Oh, and somebody's saying, "Darn, I'm literally in my seventh week." Well, check your mail because the your letter should be coming shortly. Okay, let me help you understand a little bit of pension math to further dive into what a Acera is and how it works. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm showing you multiplication here. So there's some math. Now, the reason I'm doing this, okay, because what I'm showing you is how we calculate your retirement when it comes time for you to retire. Now, that may be years away. Okay. So you might be looking at this thinking, why the heck are you showing this to me now? This is too much detail. I don't need to know this now. Okay. The reason I want you, I'm going to walk you through it. And the reason I want you to just have a basic understanding of how this works at this point, you don't need to retain a lot of the details, just have a basic understanding is it will help you crank up, like dial in these three factors that will help you maximize this monthly retirement allowance. So it really helps you get an understanding of when you go on the website and you use the benefit estimator and it gives you that precision estimate PDF, like what exactly is going into that and how you can maximize what that retirement allowance is going to be. Okay, so when you go to retire, Acera is going to do this calculation. This is our retirement formula that we use to calculate your pension for life, your monthly retirement allowance for life. Okay. Now there's three factors here. You can see this is a multiplication. There's three factors here, and these are the three categories in which you are earning credit toward retirement. So the first is an age factor percentage, and you just earn more and more credit in this category by getting older. That one's easy. You don't really have to think about it. In the service credit category, you earn more and more service credit by working longer. The longer you work, the more service credit you earn in this category. And then the salary component of the formula, the way that you earn more and more in the salary component is there's a few different ways of doing it. Um, just by sticking around longer, you will have the opportunity to receive a lot of cost of living adjustments and probably raises, perhaps promotions. Another way to crank up the highest average monthly salary component of the formula is to switch jobs, look for a higher position that pays more, maybe in a different department or for one of Acera's other employers. So those are just some ways that you might increase this. Okay. Now, here's how this works. Okay. When you go to retire, you will get as your monthly retirement allowance for life, you're going to get a percentage of your highest salary from anywhere in your career, the highest salary that you will have earned in your career. You're going to get a percentage of that highest salary for each individual year of service that you work. The service credit is measured in years, okay? So let me plug some numbers in here to further walk you through this, okay? Let's say, for example, this is purely an example. Let's say that the percentage of your highest salary that you will get for each year of service is 2%. Okay. And let's also say, for the sake of this example, that when you retire, you earned exactly 20 years of service credit. So you worked exactly 20 years full time or the equivalent of 20 years full time. So you earned 20 years of service credit. Okay. So now we know in this example that what you are going to get as your retirement allowance for life, you will get 2% of your highest salary for each individual one of these 20 years of service. Okay, it's essentially what we're doing is we're taking the 2% of your salary and we're lining up 20 of them. We're adding up 20 of them. 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 20 times. Essentially, we're multiplying them together. 2% times 20 is 40%. Now, to finish out the example, let's say that your highest average monthly salary was $5,000 per month. Okay, now we know your monthly retirement allowance for life is going to be 40% of your highest average monthly salary. We finish out the multiplication, and that gives you a $2,000 monthly retirement allowance for life. Okay, so that's what you would get from Acera every month for the rest of your life. Now, the bottom line here, because this is a multiplication, is that the larger any of these numbers are, the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the years of service credit, the higher the salary equals a higher monthly retirement allowance for life whenever we multiply it out. Okay. So you have a little bit of leeway in here to dial these in. Like I was just saying how to dial each one of them in. Okay. Um, the two strongest would be just simply working longer, and that kind of comes with the age increase. Okay, so these two kind of work in tandem. And then the next would be cranking up the salary component. Okay. Now, I, if if you think about, in one sense, that sounds like okay, well, that doesn't that doesn't sound that simple, or there's not a lot of there's not a lot of leeway in there. I just got to work longer. Okay, I mean, in one sense, that's true with the Acera pension. Okay, but when we revisit that retirement planning slide, you'll find that with the savings and investments, you will have a lot more levers to pull and a lot more dials to dial in additional savings toward retirement. And that could help you retire a lot earlier. And we'll talk about that. Okay. Somebody's asking gross or net on the salary. It's gross. And I will talk about each one of these in detail. Okay. So let's see here. Okay. So regarding the detail, let me give you a few more details about each one of these. And I think that will help you figure out how to dial these in. Okay. So let me tell you how we that how we know what age factor percentage to plug into the formula for you, and then I'll do the other two. Okay. So what percentage of your highest salary will you get for each year of service? Well, it depends on your age at retirement. So it's based on however old you are when you retire, and it's based on your tier. Each one of the tiers comes with a set of age factor percentages. And the older you are, the higher the age factor percentage. So you'll see that the numbers go up. The older you are when you retire, the higher the percentage you'll get in the formula for you. Okay. Now, what you're going to look for here is just your column for your tier. If you're a safety member, remember that's sheriff's deputies and probation officers, you're looking over here and you find your tier over here. General members, you're looking over here. And you just look at your one tier column, forget about the other columns, they don't apply to you. So, for example, if you're a general member in tier 4 and you retire at age 60, we would get out our chart. We would see general tier 4 meets age 60, 1.80%, where they intersect, and that is the percentage of your highest salary you would get for each year of service. So that's what we would plug in the formula for you. So they do get higher the older you are when you retire. The longer you essentially wait or the longer you work. You don't necessarily have to be working. You could quit, defer your retirement to a later date, and your age would continue to increase. So it's based on your age at retirement. Um, and then there's a maximum age factor percentage for each tier, which is denoted by the blue box. So if you were to retire older than that age, you would just get the maximum age factor percentage. Uh, so for example, if you're a tier 2 general, if you retired at 65 or 66 or 67, you would get the 2.43% maximum. Okay, one more thing I want to point out about this is, there's a bunch, you can see there's a bunch of gaps in the ages, and that's because there's way too many incremental increases to fit on the slide because they increase with every quarter year that you age, and it's based on your birthday. So if you want to see all the incremental quarter year age increase percentages, feel free to do that on our website at sarah.org/age. Um, but that's kind of the basics of how the age thing works. It's a lot of details to throw at you. If you don't want to remember all those details, or if you didn't really process them to begin with and they just kind of bounce off your head, totally fine. I get it. Just remember this, the bottom line is that the older the retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the maximum for your tier. So that's how that age factor percentage works. Also, people ask, do the percentages change? They don't. So if you're in that tier, these percentages are written in the law. These come from state law and they don't change. And the somebody's asking about the quarter year age increase. It's based on your birth date. So if your birth date is January 15th, one quarter after your birth date would be April 15th, two quarters would be July 15th, three quarters would be October 15th, and then back to your January 15th birth date. And that's how we determine when you age a quarter year. Okay, let me tell you about the service credit since I gave you the age factor percentage details. You start earning service credit when you enter a SARA, and you're going to earn service credit all the way up until you stop working this job. Okay. So basically, as you work, you earn service credit toward retirement with the SARA in this service credit category. It's measured in years. So if you look at your service credit number, it'll say like, if you've been here 7+ years, it'll say 7, but it'll also have a lot of decimal places off it. It'll say like 7.825562. And that is us calculating actually your service credit down to the fraction of a day. You get all those decimal places in the retirement formula when we finally calculate your retirement, which is why I like to say that you continue earning service credit toward retirement until the last 15 minutes of your last day on payroll. You earn service credit during your regular work hours. You also earn it during your earned leave times, including earned vacation leave, sick leave, management leave, comp time holidays, floating holidays. When you mark those on your timesheet, you earn service credit for those times. Those don't count against you for the purposes of calculating your service credit for calculating your SARA pension. Now, there are some times when you do not earn service credit toward retirement. Anytime you're on leave without pay, you're not earning service credit. If you purchase additional vacation, which some of our employers will allow, so let's say that you earn 2 weeks of vacation, but you want to purchase an additional week, they'll let you do that. So you just give them cash and or I'm not exactly sure how what the how the money is exchanged, but you're basically paying money to purchase additional vacation. Okay, then you go out, you take your, let's say you go out on a 3 week vacation, and on the first 2 weeks, you mark your earned vacation on your timesheet. Well, you earned service credit for that. That's fine. On the last week where you're marking the purchased vacation on your timesheet, you're not earning service credit that week, and that's not purchasable later. Okay, sold vacation. This is a different concept than purchase vacation. This is where you take your earned vacation and you sell it back to your employer for cash. You get extra cash, you don't get service credit for it. Also, overtime, on-call time, and standby time, during those times, you do not earn service credit. Okay, so there are some types of time that you did not earn service credit for that you may have. Not all of you are going to have some of these. Some of you may have one or more than one. These are types of time that you were not, the law did not allow for you to earn service credit when you were incurring that time, but it does allow for you to go back and buy that time later to increase the amount of service credit that we will calculate for you in the retirement formula, which means that if you buy extra service credit from these categories, it will increase your retirement allowance. So this is one way that you can dial in your SARE retirement allowance is by making sure that if you have eligible time to purchase, you go ahead and purchase it. Okay. So you'll note, I have a bunch of bullet points here. Let me walk you through each one of these, but you'll note that the first set, all of these types of service credit purchases count toward vesting. This last one does not count toward vesting. Okay. So the first category here is um, ineligible, it's kind of labeled ineligible non-service purchase time. The summary description of this is time worked for your employer prior to achieving your full-time retirement eligible position. Not working for a temporary agency, employment agency, or under contract. Okay, so those don't count. You can't buy that types of time. But if you worked plain old part-time for your employer or you worked for the county's temporary assignment pool, somebody was asking about that. You can buy all that temporary assignment pool time. If you worked seasonally, intermittent service as needed for a project or per diem work, these are all kind of labels that they give those types of time, and those are all purchasable once you achieve your SARA membership by getting hired in that retirement eligible position. Okay, then we have the 2 week lag between your hire date and your entry date. That's purchasable. The un so any unpaid medical leave you incur. So this is where you go out on leave for a medical condition that is your own medical condition, not a family member's, your own medical condition. Upon returning from that leave, you can buy that time up to 1 year per instance of unpaid medical leave. Okay. Somebody was asking about FMLA. FMLA is the federal government's law that prevents you basically from losing your job because you're out on an extended medical leave. So that there, it kind of puts a, it's not really a type of leave accrual. It's just kind of a category of descriptor of a type of time that you're out on. So what could happen, for example, is maybe you go out on a medical leave for an extended condition and you burn through your sick leave. Like let's say you have a month of sick leave. You use up all of that. Now during that time, you're getting paid your paycheck, based on your sick leave accruals from your employer, so you are already earning service credit for that. So you don't need to buy it back later because you already got the service credit. But let's say your condition extends another 3 months. Well, that 3 months of time would be unpaid medical leave, and when you return from that medical leave, that 3 months becomes purchasable. And the FMLA, the first 12 weeks of that would probably be designated as FMLA, and it's the portion of it that you weren't using your leave accruals for that that's the purchasable part of the FMLA. But really, what you want to think more toward is in terms of just unpaid medical leave for your medical condition. The next category is state disability insurance leave. So you go out on the state disability insurance leave, you return, you can buy that time. Sometimes what happens is You're getting a partial paycheck from your employer and a partial paycheck from the state disability insurance system. And this, I think, workers' comp is categorized in here as well. Um, for the portion of that time where you're getting your employer paycheck, you're already earning service credit. So then the part of that time where you were getting paid from the state system, that portion is purchasable. Military leave during membership, this is not prior military time served. This is where you actively have a job. You go out on military leave, you return from that military leave, return to your job. You can buy that time, um, and once you return that entire time. There is a stricter deadline with that. I'll talk about that when I get to the end. So let me finish listing these out and describing them. The next category, redeposits of prior memberships. This is where you used to be an Acera member in the past. Let's say you worked here for a year and you quit or you left the job. And when you did that, you took a refund of your contribution account. And when that happened, you canceled your Acera membership and you lost that year of service credit. Okay, you go do something else, you come back and work here again, and you think, oh, darn, I shouldn't have taken that refund. I lost that year of service credit. Well, you can put that money back, and that's called a redeposit of a prior membership. And if you do that, we will give you back that initial service credit from that prior membership. Okay, next category, reddeposit of community property. This is where you get divorced or you dissolve a domestic partnership, and um, you, during the time you were married or in that state registered domestic partnership, you earned credit with Acera. You earned retirement credit with Acera. Okay. Well, that's considered community property in the state of California, and that is often divided during the negotiation of which ex-spouse or ex-partner gets what parts of the community property. So sometimes the ex-spouse will take a portion of your Acera account with them. Basically, what they take is a portion of your service credit and a corresponding portion of your employee contribution account. So the money part of it. Now, when that happens and they split off into a new account, if they take a refund of their account, we will send you a letter in the mail letting you know they did that and tell you that you can redeposit an equivalent amount of money to get that service credit back that they took with them. And that's called a redeposit of community property. Finally, other California prior public service. If you used to be in a I'm sorry, if you used to work for another California public agency, and you're not eligible for the pension from whatever pension system they use because it's not a Sarah, you can buy that time as a Sarah service credit. And there's some examples here. Let's say that you worked for the Port of Oakland for a year. You could buy that year as a Sarah service credit. Now, it's only if you're not eligible for their pension. And usually that's for one of two reasons. One is that you didn't work there for long enough to be eligible for whatever their pension benefits are, or two, you when you left there, you took a refund from their pension system. Okay, so you do we will if you want to do this, we will. If you haven't yet taken the refund from the other pension system, we will require you to take that refund to buy that amount of time from as a Sarah service credit. Just one thing I want to say here, though. The reason that what I'm not talking about here is if you have enough time over at another pension system. Let's say you worked for CalPERS for 10 years, and that gets you enough credit. I don't know what their rules are, but that gets you enough credit to collect a pension one day from their system. It's likely more financially advantageous for you to leave that over there and collect their pension when you become eligible for it. Okay. So this is mostly for like if you're not eligible for the pension or if you've already taken a refund. Also, if you're going to establish reciprocity with another public pension system, you're not purchasing service credit. It's totally separate. Okay, so we'll talk about reciprocity in the second half of the presentation. Somebody's asking, how about from a school and you have 18 years? So yes, if you're not eligible for the school pension, um, and you have 18 years over there, you could buy that 18 years as a Sarah service credit. That's quite a bit of time. If you haven't already taken a refund from their system, I would definitely look into what pension benefits they offer before taking a refund because with 18 years it could be very significant. And you may not want to do this because it's quite expensive. When I'm about to show you how to do this and what the costs are, this one costs double or triple what these ones cost. Okay, so the California Private Public Service costs double or triple to make the service credit purchase. Um, One more thing I want to say about the deadlines to make the purchase. For all of the types of time except for the military leave, the only deadline you have to make the service credit purchase is you need to purchase it by the time you retire. So you do have a lot of time to make the purchase. Now, you're probably going to want to purchase it as soon as you can, and I'll show you why in just a second. For the military leave time, there's a different there's a different set of rules. It's basically three times the amount of time that you were out. So if you're on military leave for a year, you have 3 years to buy it back, but you can't go past 5 years. So if you were out on military leave for 2 years, you would that would hit that limit, and you would have 5 years to buy it back. Okay. Time not eligible for purchase. Okay, these are times eligible for purchase, time not eligible for purchase. One bullet point I should just add here is airtime. You'll notice that you just can't buy extra time if it doesn't fall into the categories. It's not allowed. The vacation purchase time, you didn't earn service credit for it. It's also not purchasable. Any leave without pay that's not medical leave for your own medical condition is not purchasable. Like I said, contract or temporary time is not purchasable. And if you still have your contributions on deposit, with those other prior public service pension systems, then you can't do the purchase yet. Okay, how much does it cost to make one of these service credit purchases? It's going to cost you the amount of money that you would have contributed to the fund had you worked the time that you are trying to buy. For example, let's say that you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave. So you were out on unpaid medical leave and you return. Okay. Had you been working for those 3 months, you would have been receiving a paycheck from your employer, and we would have been taking a pension contribution out of your paycheck, an employee contribution, and putting it into Sarah's fund. So whatever that amount of money would have been for you personally that you would have had to pay into a Sarah during that 3 months, that is the cost of making that 3 month service credit purchase. Plus the interest that that money would have earned had we had it to invest, because had you paid it in for that 3 months, we would have invested it. Now, if you make the service credit purchase immediately, it won't have any time to earn interest, and so you probably won't have to pay any interest. But if you wait, then you will start having to pay interest, that the interest that the money would have earned. Okay, so the longer you wait to purchase service credit, the more expensive it gets. So the time to purchase service credit is as soon as you recognize that you have one of these types of time to buy. So if you've never heard this discussion before and you do recognize that you have one of these types of time, I highly recommend going ahead and going into the next step of the process, which is to fill out our purchase request form. Okay, so all you do is you go to acera.org/forms. You can type it in to your browser, or you can go under Forms and Publications, go to Forms, scroll down to the Purchase Request form. It's right here. It's a DocuSign form. You click on it. You fill it out completely through DocuSign. You just give us some info about the time that you're trying to buy. We'll do calculations. We'll send you a letter in the mail telling you how much it's going to cost to make the service credit purchase. And at that point, you decide if you want to make the service credit purchase and even how much of the service credit purchase you want to make. Although for redeposits, those are all or none. But the other types of time, the service credit purchases, you could just purchase a portion, and it'll give you a bunch of different options for making that service credit purchase in the letter, including paying with a check on a lump sum basis, rolling over funds on a pre-tax basis from another retirement account if you have one, or we'll split it up in payroll deductions for you and take it out of your paycheck, or any combination. Okay, so you don't have to. If you just submit the purchase request, you're under no obligation to actually make the purchase. If it comes back and it's like seems too expensive, you don't have to do it. But if you do have one of those types of time, I suggest going ahead and filling out the form. It can take 2, 3 months to hear back from us because we do get a lot of these requests for these calculations, and we have to contact other agencies and other departments, and you know, they have a hard time getting back to us sometimes, so it can take some time. Let me see if there's any questions about the service credit before I move on. Somebody was asking if you return to Acera and you buy back 6 years of service credit, are you immediately vested? Yep, you are, as long as it falls into one of these categories and not this last category. Somebody's asking what the guaranteed benefits are. I did go over those, but it's the paycheck for life, essentially the pension, monthly retirement allowance for the rest of your life, cost of living adjustment, and death benefits. Did go over that. Okay, somebody's asking, um, going back to the previous slide regarding not earning service credit for the purchased vacation. What would you do? Just work more? Essentially, I mean that would be one way to do it, or you could retire with a few weeks less worth of service credit if you've purchased a week of vacation here and there over your career. Um, the if you purchase a little vacation, like a week of vacation throughout your career here and there, what I find is that it doesn't really affect your retirement allowance a huge amount. The fraction that it decreases your retirement allowance, like it is the amount of weeks that you have purchased over the amount of weeks that you've worked. So let's say that you work for 5 years. You purchase 1 week of vacation each one of those 5 years, and you retire from Acera with 5 years of service credit. Okay. Um, it wouldn't be exactly 5 years. Okay, so that would reduce. So you basically have 1/52. So that would reduce your retirement allowance. Let me see, 1 divided by 52 times 100 would reduce your retirement allowance. Why is this not working? For some reason Google isn't giving me the calculation. Might be because I turned off the AI overview. 1 divided by 52 times 100, about 2%. So your retirement allowance would be about 2% less if you were to do that. But yeah, you could tack on a few additional weeks at the end of your career, if you wanted to make up for that. It's not that much of a reduction, so I wouldn't sweat it. If you need to take a vacation here and there, for your sanity, I would just go ahead and do that. Okay, so somebody's asking, what would the interest cost be for the tap time? Well, it depends on how long ago it was. So let's say that your tap time was 5 years ago. Well, we have two interest periods, two 6-month interest periods per year, and so you would pay 10 of those 6-month interest periods worth of interest for trying to buy your tap time from 5 years ago, essentially. And we'll calculate all that for you when you send in the purchase request form. Somebody's asking, are there penalties for rolling over 401k to purchase service credit? I've never heard that there are, and usually in my experience here, when you're doing the rollover correctly, like you're filling out the correct rollover forms so that you are not taking a disbursement the money is just getting transferred from one pre-tax account to another, you do usually, I've never heard of you incurring any penalties for that because it's not like you're withdrawing money early from a retirement account. But definitely check with your 401k provider. And also, it'd be a good idea to check with my colleagues regarding that. You can write into us if you go to acera.org slash contact. There's a contact form there, or you can call us at 510-628-3000 and definitely ask them that question. Somebody is asking, can you just contact us, Sarah, if you can't quite remember if you have eligible service credits to purchase? Yeah, I believe you can. We do have all your payroll records on file, so it's possible that we can, one of my colleagues can look into that. Yeah, just go ahead and give us a call and see if we can do that at 510-628-3000. Somebody's asking, can you purchase back vacation that you sell back? You cannot. Somebody said, I recently paid to recover a year and a half of service from 2014, and I was advised to do it sooner rather than later due to the accrued interest. Absolutely. The sooner you purchase service credit, the cheaper it will be. Somebody's asking how often are third-party audits conducted on Acera, and broadly, what do those audits cover? We conduct audits annually. We have an external auditor. Let me see if we have info about that. Um, I don't think we post the audits. They're public documents. We don't have a page on. I guess what I'm saying is we don't have a page on the website that specifically has the audits, but I know that they appear in the board materials that are publicly posted for the board meetings. If you are curious about, digging into Acera's financial reports, if you go under About Acera and you go to financial reports, we have a whole many different kinds. We have an annual comprehensive annual report. We have a popular annual financial report that we're about to send you in the mail. Numerous types of actuarial valuations, and we post our budget there. And so, and we're audited externally. We hire an external auditor, and we have an internal audit department. So we, make sure that everything is as clean and above board as it possibly can be. Somebody's asking, do you get a notification once you become vested? Currently, we don't do that. Um, Mostly because the vesting part, it doesn't. Yeah, we don't currently do that. So, but you can log into your Acera account at any time, and you can see how much service credit that you have earned. And once you hit the 5-year mark, then you're vested. And somebody's asking, can I buy back service credit from the time I was on maternity leave? Absolutely. And that would be in the category of unpaid medical leave would be maternity leave. Now, just a side note for some of the rest of you, paternity leave does not count currently because it is not for your own medical um, condition, and that is because the county has not adopted the code section that would allow for that. Somebody saying my Acera account does not accurately reflect information for my welcome letter, nor service purchase credit. should you be concerned? You can always, if you log into your account and the numbers don't seem right, it's always a good idea to go ahead and contact my colleagues. Write to us at astera.org/contact. Actually, the new way to do it, if you already have a member direct account, we're going to start forcing people. When I say forcing, we're going to start for greater security, we want members to contact us through Member Direct starting September 1st. And there is a message center in there where you can contact us securely. And that will just keep all of your communications with us nice and secure because there are very sensitive financial pieces of data that people, throw around in email, which is not as secure. But go ahead and contact us if anything in Member Direct does not seem right. There, just click on the message center, send us an email, or go ahead and call us at 510-628-3000. One thing I will say about the service credit is there is a 2 to 4 week lag time. So if it's 2 to 4 weeks off, then that's probably normal. If it's more than 2 to 4 weeks off, or you finished completing a service credit purchase more than 2 to 4 weeks ago and it's not showing up in the account, then go ahead and call us and we can see if we can get that corrected. Um, but yeah, there is a 2 to 4 week lag time. Service credit purchases, I don't believe they show up until you're finished paying for them. So if you are doing payroll deductions, it won't show up in there until you've completed the payroll deductions. Okay. So we talked a lot about the age factor percentage, the service credit. Let me tell you about some more details about the highest average monthly salary. And this will go to answer some of the questions that are currently up on the Q&A. Okay, so how do we calculate this? When you go to retire, our software is going to find your period of consecutive highest pay throughout from any point in your career. In our pension lingo, this is known as your final compensation period. If you're in tiers 1 and 3, it's going to be your highest consecutive 26 biweekly or 12 monthly pay periods. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, it's going to be your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods. So essentially, for tiers 1 and 3, it's your highest year of pay, consecutive year of pay. For tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest consecutive 3 years of pay. Now, our goal is to find an average salary number to plug into the formula. So what our software will do is look at your total pay during this whole final compensation period, and it divides it by the number of months in that period to get your average salary over that period. So it divides it by 12 or 36 months. And that gives us this number, highest average monthly salary, that we can use to plug into the formula, multiply it by the age factor percentage and service credit to determine your retirement allowance for life. Now, this is gross pay that is going to be calculating before any deductions are taken out. Now, what types of pay are going to be included in here? Well, of course, your base pay is going to be included. Now, you could have some other pay types, sometimes known as footnotes. You may have other pay codes. Some of those will be included and some of them will not be. And it's based on the way the law is written, while whether they're included or not. And if you're curious about whether they will be included or not, you can go to acera.org/paycodes, and then there's a list there. You find your pay code on the list, and it will say yes or no whether it is included in this salary calculation or not. The one pay code I know off the top of my head that never counts is overtime, but otherwise there's like 1,000 pay codes, so I definitely have not spent time memorizing them, whether they count or not. Okay, and then there's two more types of pay that could possibly be included in the highest average monthly salary. And this is just tier 1 and tier 2 members, not tier 3 and 4. If during the final compensation period you sell some of your earned vacation, or your final compensation period is at the end of your career and you get cashed out for vacation that you are still on the books and that you haven't used, your earned vacation, and you receive cash for it, the vacation sales and cash out that could boost your salary for a little bit by for the purposes of calculating your retirement. Now, I do not take a deep dive into that topic in this presentation because you don't really need to think about that until you get more toward retirement. If you're curious, though, the best two places to find more information about that would be the first would be the pre-retirement webinar. So you go out to acera.org, scroll down to the pre-retirement webinar. Looks like this one's from March. Okay, then you fast forward through the YouTube video until you get to the slide that I was just on. And at that point, the pay included in highest average salary, and at that point, I go into probably a 20-minute discussion of how vacation affects the salary component of the formula. The other place you could go is sarah.org/vacation if you just want to read about it and you don't want to watch the video. Otherwise, if you're not curious, I just, yeah, I wouldn't get curious because it's 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 kind of a complicated thing. Okay, so before I move on to the next slide, let me see if there's any more questions about salary that I have not answered yet. Somebody says, does the highest salary for each year of service include working out of class assignments? It could if that pay code says yes on that pay code list. So you would want to search for that on our website and it will tell you yes or no whether it's in or out. Okay, there's an interest question I'll get to later. So somebody's asking for service credits, does interest continue to accrue until PIF? Until paid in full? Oh, if payments are paid from payroll deduction. I actually don't know the answer to that question. That would definitely be a question for my colleagues. So you can contact us in the message center in your web member services account or call us at 510-628-3000. My guess, if I had to take a wild guess, I would think it would not be because when you enter into payroll deduction, you basically sign a contract. It's called a service credit payment contract, and my guess would be that the interest would not continue to accrue, but I could be wrong. So I would I would say don't expect it to accrue unless my colleagues tell you otherwise. I'll definitely show you some screenshots in just a few minutes of the member direct account. Somebody's asking about why tier 4 has a higher final percentage than tier 2 if it's a later higher date. I think that's probably the legislature created tier 4 in 2012 to take effect in 2013 as sort of a pension reform. They called it the Public Employees Pension Reform Act. And so that may be a trade off because the percentages for, if I go back to that slide, you can see that the percentages for any particular age are lower, but it does max out higher. So if you retired at age 62, for example, as a tier 2 member, it'd be 2.09%, and 62 as a tier 4 member is 2%, so it's lower. But you do have the opportunity to work 2 more years and get it a slight bit higher. So that's probably just a trade-off that they were, thinking about whenever they wrote that law. But I'm not exactly sure what the legislative intent there was. Somebody's saying they need to drop out. Sure, absolutely. Drop out whenever you need. We'll post the video on the website within a week. Okay, let me show you this last slide. This is, I think, the last thing I will talk about regarding calculating the highest average monthly salary. For Tier 4 members, this is another thing that the legislature did in that Pension Reform Act is when they created Tier 4, they also introduced this salary cap rule. And what this does is it says that a SARA has to cap the annual dollar amount that we will be able to use when calculating your highest average monthly salary at a certain cap based on the Social Security wage index limit. You don't really need to know where the cap comes from, but these caps do increase every year, and we always post it out on the website at asara.org/limits. But what it means is that if you have a higher annual salary than 155,081 for general members and 186,096 for safety members, um, what happens is that uh, when if like let's say that you were to retire this year or in the coming year. When we go to load up the salary in our software to figure out how much of it we can count toward your pension, we have to cap it at these annual dollars. Now, what it functionally means for you all, if you do have a higher salary than that leading up, in the years that, as throughout your career, is that at the point in the year where you earn more than the cap, whatever the cap is for that year, we will stop taking pension employee contributions out of your paycheck for the rest of the year. So that will leave you more money in there for the rest of the year to save in your 457B perhaps. Um, and then when the calendar year starts over, the employee contributions will kick back in. And this is the whole thing put together. So this example is a Tier 4 member who retires at age 65 after earning 25 years of service credit exactly. Because they're Tier 4 and they retired at age 65, when we go to the age factor chart, we see that 2.30% will be their age factor. That's the percentage of their highest salary they'll get for each one of these 25 years of service. So we just plug in the 25, their highest average salary from our software was 6,000 per month. We multiply them all together. That equals a monthly retirement allowance of $3,450 that they will get every month for the rest of their life, plus cost of living adjustments. Now, just one thing I want to illustrate here. If you take the age factor percentage and the years of service and you multiply them together, that shows you the salary replacement percentage, just if you're curious. And if you did achieve 57.5% salary replacement from the Acera pension alone, you'd be in really good shape because you'd be well on your way to the 80% total when you add in the Social Security. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Okay, so let me help you get a pension estimate. Let me show you how to do it, and I'll show you some screenshots of the what your account looks like when you get into Member Direct. So to get a precision pension estimate from Acera, you go to acera.org. You click the login button. This screenshot is getting pretty old. We relaunched this website probably 9 years ago, so I should change it. You log in. But we have, we're constantly updating it all the time. So all of the info is as fresh as it can possibly get. I'm making updates probably every day. Okay, so once you log in, and you'll go through the login screens. Okay, so once you go through the login screens, like I was showing you earlier, actually, I don't have a screenshot of the account summary screen. Let me think if I have one earlier. Yeah, I actually don't in this presentation. Let me see if I have one in the pre-retirement webinar presentation. Could bring that up real fast. I think I cut that out to save time, but then you're curious about it. Let me look. Well, maybe I'll find it during the break time, and I'll pop that up on the screen, the account summary. But when you do get in here and you click estimate a benefit, this is what the benefit estimator looks like. Okay, and what you're going to do in the benefit estimator is you're going to think of a plausible retirement scenario for yourself that you want to get an estimate for, and you're going to put in a series of dates. I'll zoom in here so it's a little bit bigger for you. Separation date is last day on payroll. Payments begin date is first day of retirement, which has to be at least the next day. So if you're doing a scenario, what happens if I work, straight into retirement? Let's say that I'm 30 years old and I want to see what happens if I retire in 20 years, and it's 2025 now, so I would put in a series of dates for 2045 and plug those in here. Or I could see what happens if I work until 2040 but don't retire until 2045. You can do that too. Okay. And it uses what it already knows about you and your payroll records to project into the future. So it uses the service credit and salary that you already have. I recommend you can put in beneficiary info if you want. I recommend leaving these check mark boxes blank to get a nice conservative estimate. You hit generate and you end up with this precision pension benefit estimate, which is a PDF. You can make as many of these as you want. Um, you can save this PDF, you can download it to your device. It will also, the new Member Direct also saves a record for you in Member Direct of all of the estimates that you've made, so you can scroll through them. Um, it's a multi-page estimate. It has 4 pages. The first tells you about your, right off the bat gives you your estimated monthly pension payment from Acera. Second page talks about the numbers that it used to calculate that. Pages 3 and 4 show you basically what salary records it would be using to calculate your salary. Just to zoom in on page 1, what you're going to look at as a new or mid-career employee, my suggestion would be to navigate your retirement planning by this number here. This is what, because when you go to retire, you're going to pick among these 5 options, but the vast majority of people pick the unmodified option because it pays the highest to you, the retiree. So you can navigate by this, and when it comes time to retire, you can see what your beneficiary situation is and maybe pick a different option. But this would be the amount that you would consider the highest retirement allowance that you could achieve in that scenario. Um, and this column is for what you would receive every month for the rest of your life. So this is a precision benefit estimate. And somebody's asking for how to get to the calculator. So you're going to have to log in, but you go to acera.org and you click this login button. And then you log into Member Direct. And if you've never logged in, you're going to have to enroll, and then you're going to have to request an enrollment PIN, put in your info, request PIN, and wait for the letter to come in the mail in a few days to receive your PIN, and then you can get in there. There is a shortcut if you ever want to you just type in acera.org/login. You can save that shortcut. Um, yeah, that's how you get there. Okay, and I see some beneficiary questions pop up. I'll save those for when we start talking about death benefits and designating your beneficiary. Okay, so let me just do this. This topic is super quick. Let me just do this one topic and then we'll take a little break. Let me help you understand when you become eligible to retire. So we're talking about this milestone on the pensions milestone chart, pension milestones chart. You become eligible to retire through some combination of your years of service and age. I'll show you the tier 1, 2, and 3 slide first, and the tier 4 slide will be next. Okay, so in order to become eligible to retire, you can do it. There's 3 different combinations that will get you eligible. Okay, so these are your 3 options. Option number 1 for tiers 1, 2, and 3 is that you are at least age 50. You have at least 5 years of service credit. You've earned at least 5 years of service credit. Reciprocal service credit counts, okay? And then you have at least 10 years of membership. Now, tiers 1, 2, and 3 closed over 10 years ago, so you don't even have to worry about this 10 years of membership thing. You all have more than 10 years of membership if you're in tiers 1, 2, and 3. So you just think about being over age 50 and having at least 5 years of service credit. You can retire. Option number 2 is that as a general member, you have at least 30 years of service credit. As a safety member, you have at least 20 years of service credit. You can retire at any age, even if it's younger than the age 50 that you would need under option 1. Option number 3 is that you can retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years um, of service credit that you would need to retire under option number 1. And that same option is available in tier 4 also. You can retire with any amount of service credit at age 70. Now, for tier 4, option number 1 is a little bit different. You have to be at least age 52 as a general member and at least age 50 as a safety member, and you still have to have the 5 years of service credit. Okay. So theoretically, you can retire. You could possibly retire a lot younger than maybe you were thinking. Okay. You could retire as a tier 4 member, a general member at age 52 with the 5 years of service credit. Now, the 5 years of service credit, when we plug it in the formula, it's not going to get you a huge retirement allowance from a Sarah at that age. But maybe you could work a few more years and then you can supplement that with the personal savings and investments part, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Um, so this is just to show you that you're not limited to retiring at some like much older age than you may have been thinking. The earliest age under these options with the 5 years of service credit is 52 as a general member, 50 as a safety member for tier four, and 50 for both as tiers one, two, and three. Now, somebody had asked earlier, what happens if I leave without 5 years of service credit? You can maintain your SARE membership, you can become a deferred member, and you could retire at age 70. Now, with the less than 5 years of service credit, your retirement payment isn't going to be huge that you're going to draw at age 70, but you will draw a lifetime payment at age 70, and it could possibly pay for like a bunch of your bills in retirement. So it's definitely something to consider. We'll talk more about career planning a little bit later. And somebody was asking, what's the difference between service credit and membership? Service credit is how long you've worked. Membership is how long you've been a member. Membership is just what was your date of entry and how long it has passed since then. Mostly, you don't have to think about amount of membership. It doesn't really apply. Somebody's saying they tried to get into member direct and they requested a change of password and they haven't received the response. I think it can take a few minutes. Otherwise, I can give you the usual suggestions, which is just check your spam or junk mail folder, or like if you're in Gmail, it may have put it into another tab, or Outlook also does that these days. It puts it into another tab. Um, or possibly maybe you did not actually enroll and you don't remember. Like if you definitely remember enrolling, then you should get the password email. And if you need further help, you can definitely contact my colleagues and they'll walk you through it at 510-628-3000. Okay. Okay, at this point, let me help you understand some additional benefits that we offer. So we offer as to retirees, we offer medical, dental, vision, and some other non-guaranteed benefits. Disability retirement, which is where you become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties, you can apply for disability retirement, which is kind of a different process than the regular retirement, also known as service retirement. I don't really have a lot of info about that in this webinar, but if you go to acera.org/disability, we have a whole section on our website about that. Also, death benefits. Okay, so let me tell you about this first bullet point really quickly first. Um, this is a list of non-guaranteed extra benefits that Acera offers. Okay, so this is not included in the list of vested benefits. These are extra benefits offered. And the reason that they're offered is because back in the 80s, the county decided that their retirees needed some extra money in retirement to pay for these types of benefits. So they started this reserve fund that Acera administers. Our Board of Retirement administers the fund. So they get to set up the rules on who qualifies to get these benefits, and their whole goal is to ensure that the fund stays sustainable into the future. So currently it's considered very sustainable. There's over $1 billion in there. But their rules are that you need a certain number of years of a service credit to qualify for these subsidies. Okay, so you can see there's five non-guaranteed benefits here. There's a medical subsidy that has three levels. MMA stands for monthly medical allowance. That's the name of the medical subsidy. And there's a dental and vision subsidy, there's a Medicare subsidy, and a supplemental cost of living adjustment. Now, you'll note the supplemental cost of living adjustment that is available, and that's additional to the vested cost of living adjustment, is the only one that doesn't require a certain number of years of a service credit to qualify. All the rest of them start at 10 years. So you need to have at least achieved 10 years of Acera service credit by the time you stop working and or retire to collect these benefits. And then if you do achieve 15 or 20 years, you get a higher medical subsidy. Okay. So that's why I don't really talk in detail about, what the benefits are, what the plans are, all that stuff, because, all that stuff's going to be different by the time you all retire. If you are curious, we publish an enrollment guide every year at acera.org/guide that really details all the benefits. Um, but for our purposes right now, new employees and mid-career employees, what I really want you to know is for career planning purposes, how many years of Acera service credit it takes to qualify for these. So that's why I like to come in here, bring back the pension milestone chart, and add in a milestone for the healthcare subsidies of 10 years. This is something to be cognizant of. So let's say that for career planning purposes, you've already been working here for 9.5 years and you're thinking about going and doing something else. Well, you might want to consider sticking around for another 6 months, get past the 10-year mark. Because if you do, that would unlock a lot of extra money in retirement to pay for these medical, dental, vision, and Medicare, because you're going to need to pay for this stuff anyway. So it's a good idea to go ahead and try to get over that mark. And you'll notice it says a SARA service credit, so reciprocal service credit doesn't count toward qualifying for these benefits. Um, and then somebody's asking about beneficiaries getting medical. So these non-guaranteed benefits, the subsidies are not offered to beneficiaries. It's only you, the retiree, that gets the subsidy. However, you can enroll your your plus ones and family members in the plans. You just have to pay for for them being enrolled. And when you have beneficiaries after you pass away, if they're receiving a continuance from a SARA, they can also enroll in these plans, but there are, again, no subsidies. Okay, so somebody's asking, will you still get the healthcare subsidies if you work at a SARA agency for 10 years but leave for another career after 10 years? Yes. The way it currently works, yes. Um, the only thing that we go by is whether you've achieved the 10 years or the 15 or 20 years, or not. And it doesn't matter if you quit, go work somewhere else, you would still be eligible for our subsidies. We did have a board member years ago that was talking about wanting for uh, it to only be for people who had a Sarah as their last pension if they had reciprocity, but all the other board members would get this look of confusion and shake their heads, and that never went anywhere. And that person's not on the board anymore. So, yeah, you can, if even if your Alameda County employer is not the last one, as long as you get over the mark, you're good. Okay, let me talk about the death benefits and designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for the death benefits and keeping them current. Okay, so first off, terminology. What is a beneficiary? A beneficiary is someone who gets benefits. Now, what is your Sarah beneficiary? Your Sarah beneficiary is the person that you designate to get your Sarah death benefits after you pass away. Okay. So, let me list out what the death benefits are for you. Now, what I'm going to show you is for different scenarios of what your status is, what the death benefits would be should you die before retirement. Now, once you retire, there's a similar but different set of death benefits that would be available to your beneficiaries, and you arrange all that at the time of retirement. Okay, so you all are not near retirement yet. You don't need to really delve into that yet. So what I want to tell you is, for the purposes of, planning the rest of your career before retirement, should you die before retirement, what would your beneficiaries receive in terms of your death benefits from a SARA? Now, if you're actively working, so you're actively employed, but you're not yet vested, and vesting can come with reciprocity. And again, I'll talk about reciprocity in a few minutes. Uh, but let's say you're not yet vested. Okay, your beneficiaries would receive basically a refund of your contribution account as bullet point one. So we would give them all of your employee contributions and interest back, plus We would also give them 1 month of your salary for each year of service that you've already completed. So, for example, if you worked here for 4 years and you passed away, they would also get 4 months of your salary. Okay, now moving ahead one slide. Let's say that you are vested, and this includes reciprocal members again. Okay, so you have at least 5 years of service credit with a Sarah or combined among reciprocally linked systems in California. So you're vested. Now, your beneficiary, and you pass away, your beneficiaries will receive a enhanced list of choices that we would give to them. Okay. So they would still have that option one, return of the contributions and interest plus a 1 month of salary, but they would have two more choices. They could get a monthly survivor's allowance for the rest of their life, or they could get a hybrid. They could get a lump sum payment of the salary plus a smaller survivor's allowance. Now, this is to qualified beneficiary only. That's spouse, state registered domestic partner, Alameda County domestic partner, and minor children. Okay. For the minor children, it's not for the rest of their life. Okay. Now, having said all that about the qualified beneficiary, you can forget about it because I'm going to move to the next slide where you make, and I'm going to show you how to do this on the next slide. You make an advanced death benefit election on a Sarah's beneficiary designation form. Everyone should do this. All active members should do this. There's no downside. The choices are the same, options one, two, and three, but the survivor's allowance, there's two changes here. You can name any beneficiary. It doesn't have to be spouse, domestic partner, or minor children. It can be adult children. For the minor children, if you name them, it can be a lifetime continuance. And with the other one, it would have cut off at age 18. Okay. So it not only allows you to name any beneficiary for a lifetime continuance, it also increases, in most cases, the amount of the lifetime allowance to the maximum that it can be under the law. So you definitely want to do this. Okay. And the way to do it, let me show you how to do it. All you need to do, if you haven't done this yet, and we sent out an email blast, I think last year about this. But if you haven't done it yet, it's totally fine. All you need to do is, if you want more info, go to acera.org/ADV. If you don't need the extra info, you just want to fill out the form, you go to acera.org/BEN. Okay. You save the form to your device, you complete all the fields, you check the box for the advanced death benefit election, you print and sign the form, you send it back to us, and you're done. I'll actually show it to you. It's very easy. Go out to your browser, type in acera.org/BEN. It's a shortcut to a PDF. It pops open. You click the button to download it to your device. Okay, so let's say I've downloaded it to my device. Okay, you just fill in your information about you. It's electronically fillable. Okay, you put in your primary beneficiary. There are fields enough to name 3 primary beneficiaries. If you need more, there's instructions, I think, or you can contact us to get instructions on that. You can name 3 contingent beneficiaries. So in case your primary beneficiaries that you had named are not alive when you die, it would go to the contingent beneficiaries. And then you don't go down to section 4, you just check the box here. I elect the advanced death benefit election. I elect the advanced death benefit. And fill out this page if you have a spouse or domestic partner. Okay, then you print and sign. The last page tells you how to do that. It gives you 5 options for submitting it. You print the form, you sign it. You can upload it into Member Direct. There's other options to send it to us. Okay, and as soon as you do that, you have made the advanced death benefit election, and your beneficiaries will be able to receive that enhanced set of death benefits. So you there, if you log in your Member Direct account, you can see, and actually I have screenshots on that. Beneficiaries, it'll show you who your beneficiaries are. It does not say yet we haven't figured this out yet, whether you have made the advanced death benefit election. So you can't really know. You can contact us. We'll tell you. If you don't remember whether you've done it or not, you can always just fill out the beneficiary designation form again. Every new beneficiary designation form we receive supersedes all the old ones that we've gotten. Um, and so you could just fill it out again. And let me think, what else do I want to say about this? The advanced death benefit election. If you just started and you just filled out your Sarah welcome form, you also saw that same set of beneficiary designations and the advanced death benefit election. If you just did that and you happen to remember that you did the advanced death benefit election, you don't need to do anything else. You've already designated your beneficiaries. You've already made the advanced death benefit election. Let me think. Somebody's saying they couldn't see the form. Okay. The share must not have worked. Okay. Sorry about that. Can you see it now? Sarah.org/BEN. Can y'all see it now? Okay, great. Sarah.org/BEN. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Hit the download button, download it to your device, fill out the fields with information about yourself, fill out the primary beneficiaries, their information, fill out your contingent beneficiaries, click the box. I elect the advanced death benefit. And then fill out spousal or domestic partner info here. And then you're going to have to, we can't do electronic signatures with this one. So you're going to have to print and sign it in ink. But then page 5 gives you 5 options to submit it. Okay, let's see here. Okay. And then let me just go back a couple of slides because I think I skipped some stuff. Okay, so now let's say that you are not an active member anymore. You've stopped working, but you're still an Acera member. You've just deferred your retirement to a later date. You become what we call a deferred member. You have not taken a refund of your employee contributions. Well, if you died in deferred status, your death benefits to your beneficiaries would just be a return of the contributions and interest. Okay. So, like I was saying, keep your beneficiaries current. It's good to log in to MemberDirect, click on the beneficiary link, make sure your beneficiaries are who you think they should be. If you see your spouse in here from 3 spouses ago, you're going to want to go ahead and redesignate your beneficiary. So keep them up to date. Okay. Let me talk about some career planning options. And this, we have just about enough time to talk about this and the making a retirement planning picture. Okay, so there are a bunch of questions up in the Q&A about this, so I'm going to get those questions now. What I mean by career planning options regarding a Sarah, like I'm not going to tell you, what to do with your career. I'm just going to tell you what your options are regarding your Sarah account and your Sarah membership and your Sarah benefits. So at some point in the future, could be the near future, the far future, you are going to stop working at your job. Whether it means that you're going to retire straight out of your job, or you're going to quit and go do something else, or there's some other reason that causes you to leave your job. Um, when you stop working your job, what are your options regarding your membership with Acera? Well, you kind of have two basic categories of options, and then you have sub options underneath those. Okay, the two basic categories of options are whether you retire from Acera immediately or not upon um, leaving your job. Okay, so I'll show you those two options and then I'll show you the sub options. Okay, so first off, your first option when you stop working here is if you're eligible to already retire from Acera, you can go ahead and retire. Okay, and you have to be eligible again. You have to meet those eligibility requirements that I showed you on the previous slides. Okay. Now, if you retire from Acera, if you choose option number 1, you're going to continue earning service credit right up basically until your retirement date. It's, the last 15 minutes of your last day on payroll. And then your next day after that day will be your first day of retirement. If that happens, we'll convert your sick leave that you still have on the books on a 2-to-1 basis to service credit up to a cap, and that will give you a little boost in the service credit column of your retirement calculation. You can work after retirement. So some people were asking about this. Okay, so you have some sub options here if you're going to work after retirement. So option number one would be you can retire from a SARA and you can go work for somewhere else, anywhere else in the private sector for another, government agency, really anywhere else. If it's not for one of our six participating employers, we consider that somewhere else. And we don't care if you do that. We're going to consider you an ACERA retiree. We're going to pay your pension benefit every month for the rest of your life. So you can go work somewhere else. Okay. Option number two is that you could come back to work for one of ACERA's six participating employers. Now, you kind of have two sub options if you're thinking about doing that. Okay. Option number one is that you could continue your retirement payments. You can continue to be an ACERA retiree. Now, if you do that, you're not going to earn any more credit toward retirement. You become what is, you may have heard this terminology, it's a retired annuitant who's working for the county or one of our six participating employers. So basically, you are still receiving your ACERA retirement and you're working for one of ACERA's six participating employers, but there are restrictions. It basically restricts you to working half time per year, and there's a waiting period and other restrictions. Check those out at acera.org/working. Okay, now sub option number two, if you come back to work for an ACERA or ACERA employer, is rather than continuing your retirement payments, you could pause your retirement payments. And essentially, you will go back to work for one of our six participating employers and earn an additional retirement, basically a second retirement. So you earn additional credit toward a second retirement. And then upon retiring from the second retirement, you restart the first retirement payments also. So you end up with a higher retirement uh, in total. Okay. There's more information about that option also at acera.org/working. Okay. If you want more info about that. Uh, so just to recap, when you stop working here, option number one is to just retire from ACERA, start drawing the pension payments, and then you could not work ever again. Totally fine. Or if you do work, you can work anywhere else. We don't care. Or if you come back to work for one of ACERA's participating employers, you have these two options. Okay. Now, main option number two is that you stop working your job, but you don't retire from ACERA. And you kind of have three sub options under this, okay? And so what I'm going to do is take the pension milestone chart and I'm going to drag this termination date away from, so there's a gap between that and the retirement date. Because some of you may stop working, but you may defer your retirement to a later date, and then there would be a gap, okay? So your three sub options, if you don't retire immediately from ACERA, are going to be options A, B, and C. Okay, option A is becoming a deferred member. Option B is establishing reciprocity. Option C is taking a refund. So let me walk you through each one of those options. Option A, becoming a deferred member. Okay, the only thing that you need to do to become a deferred member is when you stop working here, you just don't take a refund from ACERA. Now, there's a form that we want you to fill out stating that intent, but really, you just don't take a refund. You leave your contributions on deposit with ACERA and you become what we call a deferred member. You're still an ACERA member. The word member is in there. Interest continues to accumulate on the money in your contribution account. There's no negative interest. And people ask me what I mean by that because that's not really a financial piece of financial terminology. What I mean is that the balance of your account never goes down. Unlike if you have another type of investment account, maybe some of you have a 401k or a 457b or an IRA or other investment accounts. When the market tanks, your balance goes down. Like the value of your investments goes down, your balance goes down. That never happens with the balance of your ACERA account. If we have negative returns in a particular interest period, on paper in the short term, we don't take any money out of your account. We only post positive interest to your account. So it's an absolutely safe place to park your money. And I cannot think of any other place that you can park your money with no risk that gets the kind of historical returns that we get. If you want more interest, if you want more info about what our interest we've posted to accounts over history, you can go to acera.org/interest. Okay. You can retire later out of deferred status. Okay. So some people will defer their that's kind of like the gist of the name of the deferred members. You're deferring your retirement to a later date. One reason people might do this is you stop working here, but you're not eligible to retire yet. So if that's the case, you just defer your retirement to a later date. Now, if you have the 5 years of service credit already, the date that you're deferring to is when you achieve the minimum age for having over 5 years of service credit. If you recall, for tiers 1, 2, and 3, it's 5 years. For tier 4, it's fifth. I'm sorry. Let me step back. For tiers 1, 2, and 3, it's age 50 with 5 years of service credit. For tier 4, it's as a general member, it's age 52. As a safety member, it's age 50 with the 5 years of service credit. Now, if you don't yet have the 5 years of service credit, you would have to wait until age 70 and you can retire out of deferred status. So those would be your options regarding that. Or you could come back to work and earn more. So if you left without achieving the 5 years, you could defer, you could come back to work later, work a little bit more to get over the 5 year mark, and then you get a much earlier retirement age. You don't have to wait till 70. Or you could be refunded at any time. So you could take option C later. You don't have to take it immediately upon leaving. If you stop working here and you don't know what you're doing yet, you don't know whether you want to take a refund or yet, don't make that decision yet. Defer that decision to a later date because you could get a refund later, and it will likely be more money than had you taken the refund because more interest would have accumulated. There's a lot more information over at acera.org/defer if you are considering this. There's a list of good reasons to defer and a list of not so good reasons to defer. Okay, that's option A. Option B is establishing reciprocity. Establishing reciprocity means linking multiple retirement systems together in California. So you link Acera with another retirement system or more than one. And you link them together because you work for public agencies that use those retirement systems to provide pension benefits to their employees. So let's say that you worked for a county job over in Contra Costa County. Um, that is a pension system that we have reciprocity with. And so you could link that system with Acera. So if you had worked over there prior, you could link, and now you're working over here for an Acera employer, you could link the two systems together and achieve some synergy among the systems. The whole point of establishing reciprocity is you gain this synergy among the systems. There's a full list of all the agencies we have reciprocity with at acera.org/reciprocity. And when I say synergy, the benefits of reciprocity are that the service credit that you earn in all the systems combined that you link together gets you over the vesting and retirement eligibility requirements for all the systems. So for example, let's say that you work over in Contra Costa County for 2 years and you earn 2 years of service credit over there. And then you come over to Sarah, one of Sarah's employers, and you earn 3 years of service credit here. And you're at least age 52. You are, if as long as you have established reciprocity and linked the systems together, you are eligible to retire. You're both vested and you're eligible to retire. Whereas if you had not linked the systems together, you did not have enough credit in either system to be eligible to retire. The second item of synergy, the second benefit of establishing reciprocity is that the highest salary that you earn under any of the jobs, under any of the systems that you have linked together, that salary number will be used by all the systems when they calculate your retirement. So for example, let's say you're making $20 an hour over in Contra Costa County. You worked there for a few years. You came over here and now you're making $30 an hour. And you work here for some years. And then you retire from both systems. You got to retire from both systems on the same day. The whatever system you made less money at, it doesn't matter. They're going to use the higher salary figure at the highest system in their retirement calculation. We're each going to do a retirement calculation for you, and we're all going to pay you separately. So that's why when you log into Member Direct, you don't see the service credit for any other counties in there, or any salary information. You'd have to log into their system because we're all going to do our separate calculations. But if the systems are linked together, we're all going to use the same salary figure to make the calculation. So that is one of the ways that you can dial in the salary component of a Sarah's formula and all the formulas of the systems that you have linked together. You could go to a separate agency if you find a higher paying job, earn more money over there, and that would increase your retirement allowance in all the systems that you have linked together. There's two more benefits. It could keep your contribution rate lower if you're not in tier four, and it could put you in an earlier tier. So if you establish reciprocity, you could go into an earlier tier than tier four, as long as your entry date into the first system is before the January 1st, 2013 cutoff date. And in order to qualify for reciprocity, you just got to do four things. You got to leave all your contributions on deposit with every system that you have linked together. You're becoming a deferred member in all of your previous systems. There can be no more than a 6 month gap between when you stop working the one job and you start employment in the next job. If there's more than a 6 month gap, you can't link them together. You don't want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. Some people will, I say, have 0 weeks of overlapping service. This is where you go on a vacation leave in one job and you start working during that same time in your new job. Just don't do that. They're going to cash you out for all your accrued vacation anyway. And number four, you got to retire from all the systems on the same day. Okay, let me see if there's any reciprocity questions in here. Can you establish reciprocity as an employee in one system and a beneficiary in another? Does that mean that you are the survivor of someone who left you a benefit from from another pension system after they passed away? And maybe you can clarify your question. Okay, and then you can all see my presentation, right? I just got to notice that it's now visible. You can see all these slides, right? Okay, great. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, maybe you can clarify your question. Next question: do you have to be vested in Acera to establish reciprocity? You do not. You could work for vested in. I mean, you could have worked here for like 2 weeks, and then you get a different position somewhere else, and you can link the systems together, and then you just link, based on the 2 weeks you have here, and then yeah, so you don't have to be vested to establish reciprocity. And in fact, that's one of the benefits of reciprocity is it gets you over the vesting requirement among all the systems linked together. Okay, that's options A and B. Option A was becoming a deferred member. Option B was establishing reciprocity. Option C for if you when you stop working here and if you don't retire immediately, option C is that you can take a refund of your employee contributions and interest. We will refund your entire account to you. Employee contributions only, not the employer contributions. Those always stay with the fund. If you're just looking for cash, you'll probably lose a third of your money right off the bat to taxes and penalties. In order to avoid that, you would want to roll that money over into another pre-tax retirement account. And then you would not owe taxes and penalties at that time. Uh, Refunds Takes some time. It could take more than 60 days. It's not an instantaneous process. And basically, what you're saying is you're waiving all your rights to ACERA benefits. So you're saying, I don't want the lifetime uh, retirement allowance. I don't want the cost of living adjustment. I don't want any of the death benefits. I don't want any of the healthcare benefits or the ability to enroll in any of your healthcare plans. I just want to take my balance of my account and leave. And that's totally up to you. But let me make a little pitch to you for not doing that. Because if you recall correctly, if you recall from earlier in the presentation, I said that if you take the ACERA retirement, if you retire from ACERA and draw a benefit, we're going to refund you all the money within the first 3 to 5 years of your retirement anyway. It's not going to be in a lump sum all at once, but it'll be over the months in your month through your monthly payments for that first 3 to 5 years. You're going to get all those contributions and interest back. And then after that, you have a lifetime of monthly payments. So it's going to be way more money total than if you had taken a refund. And you can sit down and do the math on this, but I think you'll find that in most cases that will be the case. It could be if if you got to wait till if you don't have the 5 years, you got to wait till age 70. That might not be the case. But I think that if you are at least over the 5 years and you just have to wait until you can draw the pension payment for the rest of your life at the minimum age, then then I think that you'll find that it's way more beneficial to get that lifetime pension than to take this refund. Okay, our last topic of discussion, making a retirement planning picture. And I do see some, I feel like I answered most of the questions. I do need to move this topic along. If I can't get to any of the questions that are on the board, I'll type out the answers once I turn the presentation over to our 457B expert. Okay, but I do want to make sure that I give this topic enough time. Okay, so let's take a little peek into the future. You already saw this slide one time. When you stop working at your job, you're going to need income, and that's going to come in the form of retirement income. So you're not going to be paid by your employer anymore. You're going to need other money coming in. And that will come from three possible sources: your SARA pension and possibly other pensions that you have, Social Security, and anything beyond that is savings and investments. And financial planners will tell you that you need to replace 80% of your working salary with this retirement income in order to maintain your standard of living. So, what I would like to show you is how to get pointed in the trajectory of achieving 80% salary replacement by the time you get to retirement, because it's retirement is a little ways off for you all. You're either new employees or you're in the middle of your career. And even if retirement is approaching, there's still some moves you can make. Okay. So, how do you get pointed in this trajectory? What you need to do is you need to, first of all, get an estimate of your ACERA pension and an estimate from Social Security. And that will, first off, tell you what those systems are going to pay you when you go to retire in an estimated retirement scenario. Okay. So once you're able to do that, then you can see if you're hitting the 80% salary replacement just from the ACERA pension or Social Security. And if not, then you might need to supplement that with additional savings and investments, and you can start now. Okay. So I'm not gonna have you get out any like paper or do any math. We're just gonna use technology. There's calculators that will do all this stuff for you. So first off, let's get the ACERA pension and the Social Security estimate. And I see somebody's hand is raised. Go ahead and type your question in the Q&A. Okay, so you get the ACERA estimate. You can, you can take some notes based on these estimates that you're getting. I recommend just printing out the PDFs or saving them to your device. So you get the ACERA estimate, you get the Social Security estimate. So the ACERA estimate again, you go to acera.org, click the login button, log in. Go to estimated benefit. Put in, think of your plausible retirement scenario that you want to see, get an estimate for of what your pension payment would be in this career and retirement scenario. Okay. So you put in your separation date and your payments begin date, you hit generate, and you end up with this estimated retirement benefit.
and you're going to look at the unmodified option. Okay, so you're just going to make a note of this. Save this PDF to your device, make a note of this, okay? Now, I'm going to show you a scenario for retiring at age 62, and the reason I'm going to do that is because that's the earliest you can collect Social Security payments. And so I want to show you what it looks like if you can receive the Acera pension and the Social Security immediately upon retirement. But if you want to retire earlier than age 62, you just have to take into account that you're not going to be able to collect Social Security until age 62. And so the Acera pension and the additional savings will have to uh, be able to replace your salary to the degree that you can ride it out until you are able to start collecting Social Security. But to get a Social Security estimate, you go to their website, use their estimator. Here's a shortcut. You'll end up with something that looks like this, which is an estimated dollar amount that they'll give you every month for the rest of your life from Social Security at three different retirement ages. You'll note that the earliest one will be age 62, and that's the one I'm going to use for this example. So we have about a $2,200 Acera estimate and about a $1,700 Social Security estimate. Okay, so now we've filled in the first two spots in the equation. So we can, but we don't yet know whether that gets us to 80% income replacement or not. We don't know what income replacement that gets us to. So what I'm going to suggest you do is you use an additional piece of technology, which is an online retirement calculator. There are a whole bunch of different ones in the world that you can use. If you Google them, 30 of them will come up. I'm going to suggest you use ones that you can plug in a pension amount and a Social Security amount, and it will show you the gap more that you have to save. Okay. Here are some examples. We have links to this out on our website. I'm going to just pick one and show you an example, walk you through how it works. Um, our next presenter, Gene Hilliard, is going to show you the Empower Retirement Calculator. If you start a 457B plan and you get into your Empower account, you can use their retirement calculator, and it will get you very precisely pointed in the direction of adequate income replacement. Um, you can use a handful of these. They might all give you different numbers, and it will just help you get pointed in the trajectory of having the income replacement that you're looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to acera.org. I'm gonna show you how to navigate, where these links are. Go to members, go to planning your future retirement income, and this is a step-by-step process. You can do this on your own. And this basically takes you through in detail what I'm kind of, walking you through quickly right now. It helps you get the Acera estimate, gives you the links, talks about your future retirement income, gives you the links to the Social Security estimator, and then it gives you some links to these example calculators that you can try out. It gives you the link to log into your Empower account if you start a 457B account. So I'm just going to walk you through the Vanguard calculator. You can try these other ones out too. I recommend, just looking at a few just to see, what trajectory they're suggesting for you. The commonality here is that they'll ask you some questions about your situation. Okay. And you can plug in some numbers and then they'll give you some advice. So I'm going to take a scenario of a fictional Sarah member who's 30 years old, and we're gonna see what happens if they retire at age 62. Let's say their annual salary currently is $70,000. Okay, so you would just plug in your own numbers here. It's gonna ask you how much of your annual income you already save for retirement. Let's say it's zero. You don't save any. That's perfectly fine. No worries. And how much have you already saved? Let's say it's zero again. No worries. We'll find out if you need to save some and how much that is by using the technology. This is the income replacement percentage you're targeting. I'm going to plug in 80, kind of as a conservative estimate. Gene Hilliard, when he starts talking to you, he's going to try to get you pointed at 100% income replacement, just to be safe. This number right here, this is the annual return that you might expect on your investments. So what this is assuming is that if you're going to save additional money toward retirement, you're going to park it in somewhere that has the opportunity to earn interest, like a 457B account or like an IRA account, or some other type of investment account. And the degree to which you want to increase this number is the degree of risk that you're willing to take with that money. I think a good guideline is to pick a number maybe between 4 and 8% or 7%. At Acera, we have a 7% expected investment rate. So I just like to pick that to just to give an example. The bottom line here is that um, you have a lot of years ahead of you of earning potential. And so if you park your money in something that has the potential to earn a modest interest rate like this 7%, there's going to be some ups and downs that you'll experience when you have your money parked in this spot, but over the long term, the history of markets is that they tend to go up over long periods of time. And so this is suggesting that if you annualize the amount that you have the potential to earn between now and when you retire, you're expecting about 7%. At this point, we're going to plug in the estimate from Social Security. It was about 1,700 per month. The estimate from Acera, which was about 2,200 per month. We're going to hit calculate. Okay, now what it's showing us is in this column, it's showing us our projected income in retirement. In this column, in the gray column, it's showing us our projected amount that we need to maintain our standard of living based on our current salary. And you can see that there's a gap here. We're not quite going to be bringing in as our future retirement income what we will need to pay for our expenses um, if we're targeting an 80% income replacement. So it's putting the Sarah pension in here and the Social Security, but there's no retirement savings. So what this is telling me is that there is a gap here. Okay. If I want to achieve in that scenario that I plugged in 80% salary replacement, I'm going to need to start saving some money now. Um, and so the question is, how much do I need to save? How much of a deficit am I experiencing right now in terms of dollars? So this calculator is going to help me figure this out. I'm going to edit the results. I'm going to say, what happens if I save $1,000 per year out of my income? Okay. I'm going to make sure those numbers are still in there. I'm going to hit calculate. Okay, now you see there's a little bar for the income I can expect from my savings, and it has raised the total, but I haven't gotten quite there yet. So I'm going to plug in some more money. What happens if I save $6,000 per year? Hit recalculate. Okay, now it's a little more than I might need, so I don't have to quite go that far. Let's check out 5,000, and you can just kind of go back and forth here until it gets you in the neighborhood. Okay, 5,000 was a little too much still. 4,000. That's pretty close. You can do this on your own, but you can keep adjusting it until these are pretty much even. So what this is saying is that I'm going to achieve the 80% income replacement in this scenario if I were to save $4,000 per year. Now that might sound like a lot. If you take like to save per year. But what I recommend doing is dividing it by the number of pay periods in a year, 26, and that's actually only $153 a pay period. Now that might sound like a lot, but what I suggest is get started somewhere. If you can't if the calculator tells you you need, like in this scenario, you need to save $150,000 per year per pay period, I'm sorry, $150 per pay period in order to get pointed in the trajectory of adequate income replacement, and you can't do that yet, I recommend just starting with what you can do, $20. Maybe a few pay periods will go by and you'll think, okay, I can find a little more room in here. Maybe I can save $40 per pay period. And then you just kind of keep whittling it up until you have hit the mark that the calculator is telling you is the gap. Okay. Now you're at a place where you are pointed in the trajectory of having adequate income replacement. So then what I recommend is just recalculating it from time to time. Come back 6 months later, come back a year later. Do the calculator again, see what it tells you. Maybe you readjust, you save a little more. Maybe you save a little less because you think you're overshooting it or something. And I think you'll find that if you start now, if you figure out right now, you get the Sarah pension estimate, get the Social Security estimate, plug them into one of these calculators, see if it's saying that you are going to have a gap in income. If you start right now and let it tell you how much to save and then start doing that savings, I think you'll find that over the period of time between now and when it's time for you to retire, you will have achieved the income replacement that you're looking for if you get started right now, getting yourself pointed in that trajectory. And all it takes is taking a few minutes out of, a day, maybe do it this weekend, maybe do it early next week. Go to acera.org/planning, walk through it step by step, get the pension estimates, try out the calculator. Like even if you don't have any extra money, just see what it's saying. Just see if it's saying that there's a gap. Just get the idea in your head that you might want to save a little extra. And the more that you can crank up the savings, the higher the income replacement you'll achieve and the earlier you can actually retire. So you can really dial in a much earlier retirement if you're able to crank up the savings more and more. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over. There's a few more slides here that you can go through on your own. It's all the same info as at on the acera.org/planning article that you can go through. I'm going to turn it over to the financial expert. Um, so I'm going to welcome Gene Hilliard. Gene, are you there?
I am here. How's it going, Mike?
Pretty good.
Good,
Glad
good.
you're here. So, Gene is an expert who is in deferred compensation, who has been hired by Alameda County for many, many years to provide this type of financial education on saving additional money toward retirement and saving it in a 457B plan. And a 457B plan is a type of account that you all have access to as government employees to save additional money on a pre-tax basis. It'll come right out of your paycheck. And Gene will give you all the details on how to get it set up and how that works. Um, and what I want to stress here is that this is a really great place to park your additional savings if you find that you need to make additional savings because they make it super easy with um, the paycheck deductions, and they provide education. Like you can meet with Gene as much as you want, and also, the other thing that I want to say is if you don't, even though Alameda County hires Gene, if you work for one of our five other participating employers, 99% of the info that he's going to tell you about will apply to you. So I recommend sticking around for the rest of his presentation. It'll probably go another, 30, 35 minutes. And then we'll hang out for the rest of the presentation after his presentation and get all the rest of your questions answered. Okay, so that's all I want to say. Thanks, Eugene, for being here. Go ahead and share your slide presentation.
You got it. You got it. Let's see. Show. How does that look?
We are seeing your notes.
Well, that's not good. Swap back. How about that?
Okay, there we go.
All
Looks
right.
good.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, Mike, thanks for having me.
Sure.
As Mike mentioned, my name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President, Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company here in Oakland. You know, we help our clients with creating wealth, maintaining that wealth throughout their lifetime of their kids and grandkids. Also, I'm a retirement counselor, and my goal as a retirement counselor is to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle, plus a little cushion. So maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. Okay. So the one thing you should be very, very excited about is you work for one of the last few organizations that offer a pension through ACERA. So if you spend any significant amount of time with Alameda County, 20 years, you're looking at, even if you're a tier 4 employee, you're looking at roughly half your salary, ballpark. So you're halfway there. Mike had mentioned that most financial planners argue that, between 70 to 80% would be sufficient. And I would agree with that to a certain extent, but I'm big on let's shoot for 100, and if we need to settle for 80, 70, etc., then so be it. Plus, we want to have a little cushion as well. All right, so if you're already up to roughly 60%, 50% of your salary, what you can do is use deferred comp to cover that additional 50%. I'm going to spend the next 20, 30 minutes talking about giving you guys a plan overview of deferred comp, which, by the way, is, remember, this is a 457B. It's not a 401k. It's not a 403B. Rules are slightly different with these types of plans. So this is a 457B, but we like to call it deferred comp. Okay, so here are the key topics. I'm going to spend a little time talking about retirement income. I'm going to spend a little bit of time speaking with you about the benefits of the plan and then also how to enroll. Okay, so how do we create the necessary assets in retirement? But before we get to that, I'd like for everyone to just kind of ruse a little bit, close your eyes and think about what retirement will look like for you and your family. Okay. Most people say, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to travel, right? So do you plan on frolicking the beaches of Hawaii, right? Do you anticipate an African safari? Right? Maybe the one thing that I found, I just would share, the last couple of years, people have spent a lot of time on, I believe it's ancestry.com, kind of getting an idea of where they came from. And many retirees have plans to go visit where they came from, where their parents resided. Is it Europe? Is it Brazil? Is it Mexico? Um, is it Ghana, Africa? So kind of get a feel for exactly where you're going to do. But are you going to travel? Are you going to spend that valuable, precious time with your family that may live across the country? Okay, so kind of think about what you anticipate doing in retirement, and the whole purpose of that is to have a bit of an idea of how much retirement is actually going to cost you. Now, here's the slide that Mike and I were talking about in terms of planners suggesting 70 to 90% of their salary. In many cases, that's the case. Some people are kind of confused, don't understand why they need less. And I'd like for you all to kind of think about what costs of retirement will go away, right? Are you still contributing to a SARA? The answer is no. Are you still paying into Social Security? The answer is no. Are you still paying union dues, et cetera? I can go on and on. So there's a lot of costs that go away in retirement. So that's why you typically don't need 100%. But as you guys are aware, I like to shoot for 100%. Or is it a specific dollar amount goal that you have? Is it $1 million? Is it a $500,000? Is it $2 million? If it's a big number that you're looking to create in terms of wealth, we need to have a plan to make that happen. We need to have a expected rate of return to make that happen, and that's where I can come in and assist you to help you accomplish your goals. Okay. Where will your income come from? Oftentimes, you can expect your income to come from Social Security, right? Mike had mentioned age 62 is a good starting point in terms of retirement because that's when you can collect Social Security, 62. Or you can collect it between 66 and 67 at full retirement. Or you can wait until age 70 to collect Social Security. Um, Another portion of your income will come from your pension, from a SARA, obviously here. If you have deferred comp, a 457B, 403B, etc., monies will come from that. Income from assets. Maybe you have some investment property. Maybe you have some investments that are kicking off dividends that you plan on living on. Uh, do you anticipate working in retirement? I'm all for that. What I find unacceptable is having to work in retirement. But there's nothing wrong with doing a little something part time that you enjoy to keep yourself busy, keep that mind sharp to supplement your income. So these are the various areas where you can expect your income to come from. Okay, so let's talk about this gift that Alameda County has provided to you and the benefits of it. Okay, the Deferred comp plan is a type of plan where money must come from your paycheck, payroll deduction. Okay, you can't just write a check and say, Gene, here's X amount of dollars. Can you put that in my deferred comp? So money automatically goes into your deferred comp through payroll deduction. And I love this process because I'm a firm believer in paying yourself first. Very, very important. Pay yourself first, and whatever's remaining, pay your bills, right? Paying yourself first is one of the best ways to create wealth. And basically have enough money in your coffers to sustain yourself through retirement. Okay, how much should you contribute to deferred comp? That's a case by case. It's a personal preference. It's really what your goals are. But I have found in my roughly 16 years of experience working with Alameda County employees, roughly 10% is the ideal number. So 10%. Now, some of you may be thinking 10%, Gene, are you kidding me? I live in the Bay Area. Rent's high, mortgage high, everything's high. I can't afford that. And if that's the case, that's okay. Start at 5, start at 2, start somewhere. I can guarantee you that you won't regret it. Okay, so the sweet spot is about 10%, but if you were to drop to 5, that's not going to hurt you. But it's also important that you want to build on that throughout your career. So, what are the maximums in terms of contributing to deferred comp? If you're 2025, if you're under 50, the max is 23,500. In 2025, if you're 50 and over, you can contribute an additional 7,500, bringing your total to 31,000. And because of the Secure Act 2.0, if you're between the ages of 60 and 63, the IRS will allow you to contribute $11,250 more than the normal maximum. So you're looking at 34,750. And lastly, if you're interested in taking advantage of what is called the 3-year catch-up, this is where you can contribute for it's exactly 3 years prior to retirement. The IRS will allow you to contribute $47,000 a year for 3 years. So if you're interested in the 3-year catch-up, you have to qualify. Reach out to me. I'll talk to the powers that be to kind of look at your numbers to see if you qualify. So that's called the 3-year catch-up. Okay, some more highlights. Vesting. Vesting doesn't apply to deferred comp. So 100% of any monies that go into your deferred comp account is yours. There are roughly 15 core investments. There's like 20 or 30 overall, but the core investments in deferred comp, it's about 15. So if you're not a risk taker, Alameda County Stable Value Fund may be the best fit for you. If you are a index fund investor, you like the vanguards of the world, we have something that's very similar. If you are a socially responsible investor, you don't want your money invested in alcohol, tobacco, firearms. There's an investment in deferred comp through the PAX family of funds. Okay. But in many cases, I would encourage creating a diversified portfolio of large cap companies, medium sized companies, small companies, a little bit of international investments, some bonds. So we have a lot of the core investments that go into creating a diversified portfolio. Now, there are a few ways in which you can add to your account. You can invest pre-tax, you can invest in the Roth, or you can initiate a rollover from a previous plan. Okay, so let's talk about pre-tax. Pre-tax is the option where you invest, money comes out of your paycheck, it's not taxable, so it hasn't been taxed, it's deposited, it's invested, it grows over time, but you will have to pay taxes in the future. This option works best if you believe you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement, right? So let's say hypothetically you're in a 25% tax bracket now. You're deferring your taxes. When you retire, maybe you're making less money. You're now in a 15% tax bracket. So you're going to be paying less in taxes over time. Okay. Now let's just assume that you believe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire. So you don't want to wait to pay the taxes. So in this particular case, you're paying the tax, and this is the Roth 457B or the Roth deferred comp. Now keep in mind this is not a Roth IRAs. Rules are different. So the Roth deferred comp plan is you're investing money into the account. It grows and grows and grows over time, right? You avoid having to pay any taxes in the future. So let's say hypothetically, you've invested $100,000 over your career through payroll deductions. That $100,000 grew to a half a million, where you're looking at a $400,000 tax-free withdrawal. Okay, there's no taxes on that gain, so that's a pretty good deal. But it only works if you believe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket. I'm sorry. The one thing we don't know, because some people may want to ask right now, well, Gene, what tax bracket will I be in? Well, I cannot say with certainty what tax bracket you're going to be in, because remember, tax code, that's Congress, that's the executive branch. So who knows what the tax breaks or tax rates will be in retirement. So many of you may opt to do both, because you can do both. You can do a little, maybe half in the pre-tax, half in the Roth. Now remember, you cannot exceed the max between the two, but you can invest in both. Another benefit of deferred comp is that your money compounds, especially if you invest pre-tax. What is that? Why do I say it compounds and grows faster? Well, if you're investing money into deferred comp and you're earning interest, that interest, normally it's taxable, but in this particular case, it's not. So the principal that you invested plus the interest you've earned will earn interest over the following year. And it continues to follow that pattern throughout your career. So your account grows much, much faster than, say, hypothetically investing your money in a brokerage account or a savings account outside of deferred comp. Okay. Now you're in charge in terms of how much you want to contribute, how little, right? The minimums are $20 though, $20 a paycheck or 1% per year. So, but that's flexible. You can contribute really up to the max. You can stop contributing. You can start contributing. So you're in charge in terms of the investments. If you don't feel comfortable about what's going on in the market, you can move money out of your investments and into something safe. So you have much more flexibility with your money. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to note is, and I'm always reluctant to bring it up, but I think it's still important. Don't feel as though you're investing in deferred comp and your money's tied up until you retire. There are quite a few people who opt to not contribute into deferred comp because you never know. Gene, I may have an emergency and I need my money. I don't want it tied up just for retirement. Okay. Now you can borrow against your deferred comp. Okay. So you can, take some money out of deferred comp. Maybe you want to pay off a credit card that is, where you're paying 30% interest. Okay. You promise not to charge that card up again. Or matter of fact, you're going to tear it up. You can borrow against your deferred comp to pay that off. Another popular way in which people use the loan feature of deferred comp is buying their first home. You can borrow against deferred comp to buy your first home. So it's a great tool where you can use your money right now. Okay. The other thing I forgot to mention, switching gears a little bit, is when you invest pre-tax, going back to the pre-tax version, when you invest pre-tax, and let's say hypothetically you're, all things being equal, you're making the same amount this year as you made last year, and you always get a refund. Well, guess what? Contributing to deferred comp pre-tax more than likely is going to increase your refund. So that's a pretty good deal, right? Also, if you always owe, every year I owe 5 grand or 2 grand, investing in deferred comp, I'm fairly confident may cut your tax bill. Check with your tax advisor first, but I just want to make sure everyone on this call is aware of that. So there are two benefits. People are reluctant to talk about the future. There are two benefits here that will help you right now: borrowing and also reducing your tax bill. So I would encourage everyone to consider that. Okay. Now let's dive back into investing. That's the hard part for a lot of people. And I just want you to know that we are here to help you. This is that's what I was hired for. I recognize that you guys are experts at what you do. I'm relatively educated in the investment markets, investment strategies, etc. So there are three different types of investors. There's a do it for me investor. You don't want anything to do with it other than making a phone call, someone telling you how much to contribute, right? There are the Fisher personalized retirement managed account portfolios. It's going to cost you a little bit. I think it's around 0.50% per year, but that is an option if you don't want to be a part of your investment decisions. Well, let's say hypothetically you're the type of person that just, I have a little bit of knowledge, but I needed some help. There are a couple of portfolios or investment strategies. You can take advantage of Goalmaker or Fisher personalized retirement online advice. Those two options don't cost you anymore. Goalmaker is a portfolio strategies that I like. You tell the system whether you're conservative, moderate, aggressive. You tell the system what year you anticipate retiring, and then boom, it's done. Okay, and then option three is to do it myself. If you have some expertise in the markets, you can go in, choose your own investments, and then you're off and running. Okay, I'll briefly touch on Goalmaker. I talked about Goalmaker a little bit. You tell us your investor style, when you anticipate retiring, and then the system will do the rest. And here's a hypothetical Goalmaker model. I'd like to point your attention to where it's at with the light blue, where it says stable value. Look at the size. Now, this is a moderate portfolio, and that's probably roughly 20% that is invested in that stable value. Okay. And then it rebalances. So there could be an occasion where, let's say, hypothetically, your investment portfolio is 80% stocks, 20% bonds, or stable value. Market does really well. Your account now, a year later, is a 90-10, and that can happen. You have 90% of your money in stocks, 10% of your money in more conservative investments. That is outside the recommended investment allocation for you and your family. So how do we get you back in line to what's appropriate? You initiate a rebalance. So you go from an 80-20 to a 90-10 back to, and we'll buy and sell the necessary investments to get you back to that 80-20 mix. Okay. And here are the different portfolios. You have a person who's 16 plus years out, 11 to 15, 6 to 10, 0 to 5. So as you get closer and closer, look at the light blue starting in the 16 plus. As you can see, as you move across your career, when you're 0 to 5 years out from retirement, you'll see that the stable value piece is much, much larger. It's a much larger piece of the pie, and that makes sense because as you get closer to retirement, you don't really have a lot of time on your side. So we want to protect as much as we can from any downturn in the market. Okay. All right. Consolidating retirement accounts, something that I would suggest that you consider. Say you came from Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Joaquin, Napa County, and you have a deferred comp plan that maybe is just languishing, it's not earning a whole lot. Even if it's a 401k, it's not earning a whole heck of a lot in terms of your retirement. You might want to consider rolling that money into deferred comp. That may or may not be the best decision, but reach out to me. I can do some analysis on both plans to see what's the appropriate course of action is. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, that there's a difference between a 401k, 403b, and deferred comp. The biggest difference between those two is that second bullet point. There's no penalty before age 59 and a half. Okay, no penalty. 401k, 403B, hypothetically, let's say you left that organization, you're 52 years old. If you were to withdraw money from that 401k, you're going to get penalized 10%, plus you're going to have to pay taxes. So you're potentially looking at a 40% tax hit. But if you're investing in deferred comp and you leave at 52, you have access to all of your money minus taxes. So there's no penalty. So that's the biggest difference between the two, but everything else is pretty much identical. How do you enroll? Well, just go to treasurer.acgov.org, treasurer.acgov.org, go to deferred comp, and then click on enroll, print out the application, complete it, send it in. We'll give you the address on the form. Now, where some people kind of stop and maybe procrastinate a little bit because they're unsure of what to put on the application. Number one, it's whether you should invest in the pre-tax or the Roth. I would say if you don't know off the top of your head, just do the pre-tax for now. We can always switch it later. So just don't let that stop you from signing up. And then number two is how to invest your money. My suggestion is just choose the goal maker model. Just choose advisor goal maker, moderate 2040. So that's a portfolio for a person that's going to retire somewhere in the neighborhood of 2040, okay, or later. But if you anticipate retiring sooner than that, then choose a model, because there's a advisor goal maker moderate 2032 or 2028. Those models exist and they're on the form. So just check that box and keep it moving. If you're currently in the plan, you don't need to complete a new application. Just go through the payroll modification process. So same website, go to payroll modification, and that can be done online. So that's pretty easy. You don't have to print anything out. Just go through the process, go through the clicks, put the new amount that you want to contribute into deferred comp, and then let's just keep it moving, okay? Once you've signed up for the plan or you're in the plan, I would encourage you to go to AlamidaCountyDCP.com, create a user ID and password. So you can view your account, you can print your statement. You can also use the retirement income calculator that Mike talked about earlier on the website, okay? Or you can use the Vanguard, doesn't matter. Vanguard, actually, that's a pretty good calculator. But you can also use the calculator on the Empower website as well. Okay. Yeah, here's some information about creating a user ID and password, which I certainly encourage you to do. Okay. And then, if you're high tech, you can download the Empower app on your phone to view your account information. Okay. If you ever need assistance with an Empower rep, just go to AlamidaCountyDCP.com, or you can call 855-969-4572. Okay. You can reach out to any one of us in terms of retirement counseling, et cetera. There's Mark Tomei on the left through Wells Fargo, myself with the Emerge Financial Group, and then there's a couple of reps through through Empower. You can go to Dan or you can go to Jose for some assistance. So schedule an appointment, AlamidaCountyDCP.com, and then go to, I think it's Meet Your Representatives. And once you've clicked on that, then you'll see our pictures, and then you can click on Schedule an Appointment. Or you can call this number, the 855-969-4572. If you want to bypass that and you're interested in just contacting me directly, knock yourself out. Just call my office at 510-562-6355, 510-562-6355, or you can email me at g_Hilliard, HILLIARD, at emergefinancial.com. Okay. Be sure, if you speak with, could be Penny, could be Linda, let them know that you're an Alameda County employee, because I have a private practice and I don't have a separate line for county employees. So just make sure that you let Linda know and let Penny know that you're a Alameda County employee. So that's going to pretty much put you to the top of the list in terms of scheduling appointments. Okay. So with that, I'd love to entertain questions.
Amazing. Thanks, Gene.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.